Welcome back, Deep Divers. Today, we're going to dive into a case that's equal parts heartbreaking and ultimately, I guess, triumphant.
Hmm.
The 1995 unsolved murder of Mary Katherine Edwards,
Oh, wow.
a beloved school teacher in Beaumont, Texas.
Okay.
And we've got a whole stack of sources for this one. Court transcripts, interviews, even some personal journal entries from Katherine herself.
Really?
It's pretty amazing. Gives you a real glimpse into who she was as a person.
Wow, that's incredible.
And I think what we really want to get at today is, you know how this seemingly ordinary man
Hmm.
concealed such a dark side for so long,
Yeah.
and what this case can tell us about the secrets people keep.
Yeah, it's a fascinating case, especially considering it went cold for like over 25 years.
Right.
No signs of forced entry.
Yeah.
The victim was restrained with police grade handcuffs.
It's crazy.
It was a mystery that really gripped the community.
It makes you wonder, like, not just, who did it, but like, how did they get away with it for so long?
Right, yeah.
To really understand the impact of this case, I think it's important to understand Katherine.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of person was she?
Mm.
How did her absence affect those around her?
Yeah, yeah. So from what I've read in her journals, I Catherine was just full of life,
Mhm.
passionate about teaching, very close to her twin sister Allison.
Wow.
And in one entry, she wrote, "Things are looking up in my life. I'm going to teach second grade next year. I know I was meant to do this." You
Wow.
can really sense her hope and excitement for the future.
Ugh, it's just so tragic to
Yeah.
think about everything that was stolen from her and from her loved ones.
Hmm.
Her former student, Helania Adams, was so profoundly impacted by the murder
Right.
that she actually went on to study criminal justice.
Oh, wow.
Can you imagine, like, dedicating your career to seeking justice for others
Wow.
because of something like that?
It speaks volumes about Catherine's influence and the ripple effect of this crime.
Yeah.
Even in her absence, she inspired positive change in the lives of those who knew her.
Yeah, it's really amazing
Hmm.
how someone's legacy can live on like that. But, turning back to the investigation itself,
Yeah.
what were some of the initial challenges that the detectives faced?
Well, back in 1995, DNA technology was still in its very early stages,
Right.
and the initial focus on an ex-boyfriend didn't lead anywhere.
Mm.
Plus, those handcuffs, those really fueled speculation that a police officer
Oh, wow.
might have been involved, and that cast a long shadow over the community.
It must have been terrifying
Oh,
for
yeah.
people to think that someone they were supposed to trust
Right.
might be responsible for such a horrific act.
Yeah.
I'm curious, like, what was the significance of the handcuffs? Why were they so crucial to the investigation?
Well, for one, it suggests a level of premeditation, possibly even an attempt to mislead investigators. It's chilling, but it also indicates that the perpetrator was likely familiar with law enforcement procedures.
Right. Yeah. It's
Yeah.
almost like something out of a crime novel, isn't it?
Hmm.
But thankfully, this story doesn't end there. Fast forward to 2018 and enter, genetic genealogy, the game changer that blew this case wide open.
Yeah.
It's like having a DNA detective working for you.
Exactly. Imagine you're piecing together a giant family puzzle, but instead of pictures, you're using DNA to connect the pieces.
Yeah.
Genetic genealogy relies on public databases like GED Match,
Right.
which allow investigators to trace family connections through DNA markers.
So how did this new technology help solve Catherine's case? How did they even begin to track down a suspect after all these years?
So Detective Aaron Llewellyn
Ah.
and his wife, Tina, who's also a detective, they took on this case with incredible dedication. They teamed up with expert genealogist Shira LaPointe, and together they painstakingly built a massive family tree. Over 7,490 people.
Whoa, that's a huge undertaking. Can you imagine the pressure?
Oh, yeah.
They were under, knowing that Catherine's family had been waiting for answers for so long.
Absolutely. It was a massive effort. Tina even used Catherine's journals to help build out the family tree, looking for any names or clues that might connect to the suspect's lineage. It's that level of detail that ultimately cracked the case.
So after all that work, did they finally find their suspect? Who was this person hiding in plain sight?
As they narrowed down the possibilities, one name kept surfacing: Clayton Foreman. Seemingly an ordinary man, but but he had a disturbing past.
Okay, here's where it gets interesting. Tell me more about Clayton Foreman.
Well, for starters, he had a prior conviction for sexual assault back in 1981.
A prior conviction for sexual assault. That's a serious red flag. What happened?
He bound and assaulted a classmate. This was back before DNA databases and sex offender registries were commonplace.
Wow. It's scary to think how easily someone could slip through the cracks back then. But what's even more chilling is how this seemingly ordinary guy was actually connected to Katherine.
You're right. It turned out Foreman was the ex-husband of Diana Coe, one of Catherine's closest friends since middle school. He was even a groomsman in her wedding. Talk about a shocking twist.
It's almost too much of a coincidence, isn't it, to be that close to the victim and yet remain undetected for so long? How did Diana react when she found out about Foreman's past?
Initially, she was in disbelief, but as she thought back on their relationship, things started to make sense. His strange behavior, his lack of emotion when she told him about Catherine's murder.
Diana must have felt so betrayed, realizing that the man she knew had been hiding this dark side all along. I'm also curious about Foreman's fascination with law enforcement. Do you think that played a role in how he was able to evade capture for so long?
It's definitely a possibility. Diana recalled him having a peculiar interest in handcuffs, even owning a pair himself. This all points to a calculated and cunning individual.
It's just so unsettling.
Yeah.
So they had their suspect, but how did the detectives go about getting the evidence they needed to finally arrest him?
They came up with a clever ruse. They contacted Foreman, claiming a purse was left in his car during an Uber ride. He willingly came to the police station thinking he was helping out, completely oblivious that he was walking into a trap.
It sounds like something you'd see in a movie.
Oh.
Did he fall for it?
Hook, line, and sinker. They already had his trash run for DNA, and it confirmed their suspicions. It was time to face the man they believed took Catherine's life.
I bet the tension in that interrogation room was palpable. Foreman confessed right away.
Not at all. The detectives started by casually mentioning they were looking into a cold case from 1995, Catherine's murder. He played it cool, denied any knowledge of her death, even claiming he barely remembered her from high school.
So how did they break through his facade?
They showed him a wedding photo of Catherine and Allison as bridesmaids at his wedding to Diana.
Wow, what a powerful image to confront him with. I can only imagine how he must have felt seeing those faces from his past. Knowing the detectives were closing in, how did he react?
He tried to maintain his composure, but the photo clearly shook him. They continued to press him, asking about his relationship with Catherine, his whereabouts at the time of the murder, and about his interest in handcuffs. With every denial, their suspicions grew stronger.
It's like watching a psychological thriller unfold.
Yeah.
The truth is there, just beneath the surface, waiting to be exposed.
And that moment of truth came when they confronted Foreman with the DNA evidence. They explained in no uncertain terms that his DNA was found at the crime scene.
What was his response? Did he finally break down?
He maintained a surprising level of calmness, saying he couldn't explain how his DNA got there. But the detectives drove home the point that only two people knew the truth, him and Catherine, who could no longer speak for herself. That's when his composure began to crumble.
I bet that must have been a powerful moment for the detectives, knowing they were getting justice for Catherine and her family. Did Foreman try to bargain his way out? Make excuses?
He simply requested an attorney, a clear sign that he knew the game was up. The detectives let him gather his things, making him think he was free to go. But as he reached the hallway, they stopped him and placed him under arrest for Catherine's murder.
After 26 years, justice was finally being served. It's a testament to the perseverance of everyone involved, especially Catherine's family and the dedicated investigators who never gave up hope.
And to add a touch of poetic justice, they used the very same handcuffs that bound Catherine to arrest him.
Wow, chills. What a powerful symbol of turning the tables. But the story isn't over yet, right? What happened at the trial?
The trial was emotionally charged. Catherine's twin sister, Allison, gave heart-wrenching testimony about the devastating impact of losing her other half. One of Catherine's former students, Helena Adams, also took the stand, sharing how the murder shaped her life and led her to pursue a career in criminal justice.
It's amazing how one person's life can have such a profound impact on others, even in their absence. But what about the evidence? Did the prosecution have a strong case against Foreman?
Absolutely. They presented a mountain of evidence from the DNA results to the meticulous work of the genealogists. They painted a picture of Foreman as a cunning predator who had exploited the trust of those around him, highlighting his prior conviction and his fascination with law enforcement.
So how did Foreman's defense team respond? Did they try to challenge the DNA evidence or offer an alternative explanation for his presence at the crime scene?
The defense was surprisingly weak. They attempted to discredit the DNA evidence, but ultimately chose not to call any witnesses. A pretty clear indication they knew they were fighting an uphill battle. Their closing argument relied heavily on appealing to the jury's emotions, claiming that while Foreman may have been involved in some unsavory activities in the past, he wasn't a murderer.
It sounds like a desperate attempt to grasp at straws. Did the jury buy it? Doesn't sound very convincing. Did the jury buy it?
The jury saw right through it. After deliberating for only an hour, they returned with a guilty verdict. You could feel the sense of relief and closure in the courtroom, especially from Catherine's loved ones. It took 26 years, but justice was finally served.
It's hard to imagine the range of emotions everyone must have been feeling in that moment. But it's a testament to the power of forensic science, the unwavering dedication of the detectives, and the courage of those who testified. Did Foreman ever offer an explanation for his actions? Did he confess?
No, unfortunately not. Throughout the trial and even during his sentencing, he remained tight-lipped, refusing to provide any insight into his motivations.
Yeah.
And while he was sentenced to life in prison, the lack of a confession left many unanswered questions.
It's almost more unsettling not knowing the why behind such a horrific act. That must be incredibly frustrating for everyone involved.
Especially
For Diana.
Absolutely. Diana carries a heavy burden, not only the weight of her past relationship with Foreman, but also the guilt of having unknowingly introduced him into Catherine's life. She's been left grappling with what ifs, wondering if things might have been different had she not married him.
It's a stark reminder of how interconnected our lives truly are, and how our choices can have far-reaching consequences. Despite all this, it's inspiring to see how Catherine's memory has lived on in such positive ways. The dedication of the detectives,
Yeah.
the advancements in forensic science, and the bravery of those who came forward to share their stories. It all speaks volumes.
You're right. Catherine's case brought about a sense of awareness. During the trial, other women came forward, sharing their own disturbing encounters with Foreman. Their courage highlighted a pattern of predatory behavior that had gone unchecked for far too long.
It's a chilling reminder that monsters often wear the mask of normalcy, blending seamlessly into our everyday lives. Knowing that someone like Foreman was able to deceive so many for so long is a scary thought.
It is, and it underscores the importance of trusting our instincts and being vigilant. We have a responsibility to protect ourselves and others from those who might do us harm.
It's a heavy message, but a crucial one. Even though Catherine's story ends in tragedy, it ultimately empowers us to speak up and break the silence surrounding abuse. Her case reminds us that light can emerge from darkness.
Exactly. While her life was tragically cut short, her impact continues to ripple outwards. It shows us the enduring power of the human spirit, the strength of community, and the importance of seeking justice no matter how long it takes.
This deep dive has been incredibly insightful. Albeit heavy at times, it makes you think, could you spot a Clayton Foreman in your own life? Are we paying enough attention to the subtle signs, the red flags, that might indicate someone is hiding a dark side?
It's a question worth pondering. Evil often lurks beneath a veneer of normalcy. By being aware, by trusting our gut feelings, and by supporting each other, we can strive to create a safer world.
Catherine's story, though steeped in tragedy, ultimately reminds us that even in the darkest of times, hope and justice can prevail. What are your final thoughts?
I think this case highlights the importance of never giving up hope. Even when a case goes cold for decades, advancements in technology and the unwavering pursuit of truth can bring justice. Catherine's story is a testament to that.
Well said. It's been a truly impactful deep dive. Thank you for joining us today. And to you listening, we encourage you to reflect on the complexities of human nature, the importance of vigilance, and the enduring power of hope. Stay curious, stay informed, and keep seeking the truth.